Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the, this is the Cal Royal BB5200 is what this is. It is a US10B removable pin hinge, and the 5200 is a not uncommon hinge, not at all in fact, but it will be less common than the most common. That's primarily because of the thickness of the leaf. And let's go over some dimensional properties right now as I pull it up. This is the BB5200. The way that Cal Royal does this is they use particular part numbers for sizes. So I think a 5200 in a 5x, like a heavyweight 5x5, it's going to be a different part number. But we'll dive into the catalog in a bit. Let's first take some dimensional properties. So a BB5200. This is going to be a 4.5 inch tall hinge. It's going to be a 4.5 inch wide hinge. That is part and parcel of this part number. What is also, many other things are part and parcel of the part number, and we're going to go over that. This hinge should be 180 thousandths thick. That means that we would call it a heavyweight. My caliper tells me it's 0.176, so I would consider that in alignment with what it ought to be. So this is thicker than standard. There are three weights of hinges when it comes to builder's hardware: residential, standard duty commercial, heavy duty commercial. Every size of hinge, specifically height I'm referring to, has a thickness of leaf that is associated with it. So a heavyweight 4.5 and a heavyweight 6 inch and a heavyweight 5 inch, they're different leaf thicknesses. That's just how it goes. The other thing that's part and parcel of this part number is going to be the fact that it's a template pattern. These holes are an industry standard. When we use the term template, template can be used two ways, referring to a technical drawing that shows you dimensions of this. It also refers to an industry standardized location of where these holes are as measured from the side and the top to the center of each of these holes for this height of hinge. So a template hinge from Cal Royal is going to fit is the same location as a template hinge from McKinney, from Hager, from Bomber, from Ives, from every other PBB, every other manufacturer or importer of hinges, every single time. So I mention it because it's a relatively common question. Hey, I'm not sure the holes are going to line up. Well, just look at the template and you'll know whether they will or not, because you can compare that. Also part and parcel is the fact that it is a full mortise hinge. You can see from the swag or the bend on the hinge leaves here and here that when the leaves are brought parallel, they're meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame, just like that. You have about a 1/16 of an inch margin between the two leaves, and that's typical. This is also a 5-knuckle hinge. From a distance, you can also tell that it is a heavyweight because heavyweights have 4 bearing packets, whereas standard weight hinges have only 2 bearing packets. And of course, we're also going to be taking a look at the fact that this is a removable pin hinge. This is just a removable pin hinge. There is no security or safety features on the hinge anywhere at all. This pin can just simply be driven out. What determines whether or not you use a hinge with a security feature is whether or not the door swings out. Old school logic would say if it's an exterior door that swings out, you'll always want a security feature. The way it's being taught nowadays is any door that's a reverse bevel. So if it's a closet door in a commercial setting, it might be office storage. You're going to want to put a security feature on that hinge as well. That's maybe that was devised by the people who sell hinges, but that's what we're teaching now. It's going to include standard fasteners. It will include, it looks like all machine screw and half wood screw. By all means, indicate in the comment field what fasteners you need to have, so that the onus is on the manufacturer to package it correctly. You might be doing all wood and they haven't sent all wood. It's been all machine and half wood. Very typical that you could use a wood door and a wood frame. So indicate that in the comment field. We want the factory to know exactly what you need. Now, let's talk about what this hinge is used for.
If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video.
Now, where you're going to use this hinge, quite frankly, is going to be a relatively particular application. So first of all, it's 4.5 inch tall. So that tells me that the door is going to be something in the range of 80, 100, 150 pounds, something in that general range. The fact that it's heavyweight tells me that it could be thicker. Pardon me. What tells me that it could be a different door, or heavier, I meant to say, not thicker, is the fact that it is heavyweight. So if your door was heavier, maybe 175 or 200 pounds, you might want a heavyweight hinge. If your door had a higher volume than standard, you'd want a heavier weight hinge. If your door was wider than 3 foot, you'd want a heavier weight hinge as well. So the leaf thickness is going to speak to contending with the frequency of use, the width and the weight of the door. The height is going to have everything to do with contending with the width and the weight of the door, no doubt. Those two things kind of run together. Now the width, this may or may not be the right width. This is 4.5 inch overall width. Every time that you're ordering a hinge, you're going to want to run the width formula for a hinge, which is door thickness minus backset times 2 plus inset plus clearance. So slowing that down is, assuming you have a 1/4 inch backset from the push side of the door to where the mortise starts, to the vertical axis of pivoting, is what we're trying to determine. So your door thickness is 1.75 inches, let's say a standard door, minus the 1/4 inch backset is 1.5 inches, times 2 is 3 inch. If the inset is 0 or very close to 0, you add whatever that is. A typical hollow metal door and frame is going to be like a 1/16 of an inch. And then when it comes to inset, that's the dimension from the, inset is the dimension from the face of the frame to the face of the door. That could be 0, or it could be a small number, like a 1/16 or an 1/8, or it could be a large number. You just have to calculate. You add that to the 3 inch. Then you add the clearance, which is basically that's going to be the face of the frame to the projecting whatever it is. You might have casing. You might have something you need to get around. So you add all that together. In our case, it's a hollow metal frame. So our clearance needs to be 7/16 because it's a knockdown hollow metal frame with a 7/16 return. So 1.75 minus 1/4 inch is times 2 is 3 inch, plus our 1/16 is 3 1/16, plus our 7/16 is 3.5. So for typical hollow metal frame applications, knockdown drywall frames over partition walls, this hinge is wrong. It's wrong every day of the week. Because it's wrong because 2 reasons. First of all, have you ever walked down a hallway and cracked the crown of your watch on projecting hardware like a strike lip or the barrel of a hinge? I have. Tucking this back closer not only helps reduce that possibility, but also mechanically, with the vertical axis of pivoting being closer to the face of the door or closer to the center of the door, from a mechanical perspective, it's a more efficient way to hang the door. So every time, run that formula. We were at 3.5. You round it up to the next commercial available size, and that's the size hinge. So this should be a 4.5 by 4 in that application. You could also have 3/4 inch crown molding, or not crown molding. You could have exterior casing on residential. Brick mold is what I'm thinking of. You might have brick mold that's 7/8 thick. So, you got to run the formula. You might have a need where the wood frame is inset into the face of the masonry wall, but you want that door to go out 180 degrees. You got to calculate that so that your door can get all the way out. And that's really where running the width formula comes into play. It's a relationship of is the vertical axis of pivoting in the right location? And number 1. And number 2, will it achieve what you need to achieve, your degree of opening? Let's switch to the screen view and let's take a look at all of the supporting information.
If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it.
All right, let's take a look at this hinge. Let's first look at some images that we have. Here's the box. BB 5200 4.5 US10B oil rub bronze. The one thing I have not mentioned, this is a steel-based hinge. So they call it US10B. It would be more correct to call it 640. That tells us that the base material is steel and that it is oil rubbed. If it was 613, you may have heard that. It would still be oil rub bronze, but it would be a bronze-based material. There's our hinge. This is showing the full mortise nature of the hinge, the bend on the hinge leaves here. An excessively large company logo. I would like that to be about a third of the size. Just showing you close up of what this looks like a little bit more. Your screw package. All right, now steel, 180 thousandths, 5 knuckle, 4 ball bearing, 1, 2, 3, 4. 8 holes, just a template pattern. For heavy doors or doors requiring high frequency use, very appropriate. Okay. Inner edges are beveled to conform to shape of barrel and to make close-fitting joints. Inner edges. Generally what you'll find is on the hinge leaf itself, you'll generally find that to be not square. I've always thought that to be an artifact of the manufacturing process, but that does serve to leave a tight fit of the hinge and the mortise pocket that you've created. Where else they're referring to on that, I really can't say. They might mean in here. They might chamfer this leaf going over the bearing packet. It looks like that could be the case, so that it fits nice together. Sure, I mean, chamfering or relieving that or beveling that, whatever term they used, will help the hinge just swing easier without a load being applied to it. Equipped with all machine and 1/2 wood screws. Okay, template, let's look at the template. Yeah, if you're not sure if the screw hole locations match, here's the document to review. Very common questions are always answered here. What are the location of the holes? What they're not giving us is other information that some people ask: the diameter of the barrel, the swag line, what's the length of the bend of the hinge. Some people will ask that as well. This is generally about a 1/2 inch. It's probably a little bit larger on a heavyweight hinge, might be 5/8. I truly don't believe that dimension is ever required. And you'll only see it added to templates when I think they're just putting the data there. But people do want to know what the leaf length is. People do ask for that. That's nice to know. What's called the swag line. Okay, so that's the only document here. There's a link below this video as seen here to the manufacturer's page. And when you click on that, you can pull up not only all of the Cal Royal products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the current product catalog. Prior product catalogs are here. There's a link to the ICC A117.1. A117.1. This is the government or the ANSI standard when it comes to accessible and usable buildings and facilities. Why have this here? Well, Cal Royal makes thresholds. They provide thresholds. Height, maximum height, rise over run. You'll find that all in here. Cal Royal might also do Division 10 or grab bars as well. So if you ever needed to know what height do I put those grab bars, you will be able to find that height here. Here is information regarding thresholds. It's a 2-to-1 relationship. 1/2 inch max. You cannot have a 90 degree at more than a 1/4 inch. So if you take that idea and you study the profile of thresholds and you determine by that manufacturer's product data whether or not it's handicap compliant. If it is, you'll see that it always complies with this. So that's why that document is there. Now the manufacturer's product catalog, we can take a look at that. It is opening. Here is the price list that's here. All right, so we've got that catalog loaded. Let's do a Control F for BB-5200 and let's see if we can find that hinge. It may not be -5200. Let's open up the price list. Okay, so it's not -5200. So BB-5200, and I'm scrolling through to find all the instances of this hinge. Here it is. So the 5200 is literally a 4.5, 4.5 in these finishes. You want to go to 4.5 by 4 like we said earlier? It's a BB-52 454. 5x5 is a BB55. And their price book is pretty good to use as a reference for part numbers and sizes. You know, the regular hinge from Cal Royal is going to be the BB31. You know, you just want regular ball bearing, full mortise, 5-knuckle. It's here somewhere. BB31. Yeah, right there. BB31. On the same page, it was just to the right of it. Lots of finishes you can get in that. Prime coat, satin chrome, antique bronze with a lacquer, oil rub bronze, satin bronze, antique nickel, satin brass, polished brass, antique brass, polished chrome, satin chrome, dark bronze prime coated, black, and solid stainless with a brushed finish. The BB52s, these are the finishes here. All right, now the product catalog is also helpful. I don't know if we're going to be able to, here we go. So BB5200, that's going to be, yeah, it's going to be near the back of the catalog. And I know that only because I'm reasonably familiar with their catalog. It'll be before builder's hardware and after lock sets and whatnot, as far as I recall. But the bottom line is you'd be able to ultimately find their cut sheet in this catalog. Yeah, so continuous geared hinges, it might be right after that. So looks like about halfway through. Invisible hinges, or concealed hinges would be the proper way to call it. This catalog is 480 plus pages, so it took a minute for it to search, but here it is, BB5200. Four and a half. Couple of asterisks here. Not sure what that means. It's always nice to know what an asterisk means. Two asterisks. Optional UL listed hinges available. Prefix UL. Very interesting. So, what they don't say is how much more that costs. So...
Oh, I forgot to tell you. Here's the part.
It turns out, though, according to NFPA 80, you don't have to have a hinge with a label. It's a listed product. Well, it ought to be a listed product. As long as it's steel base and ball bearing, it doesn't have to say UL on it, but because the manufacturer's catalog says if you need it UL listed, well, you know what it is? Let's slow that down. If you need it UL listed, you're going to put UL. If you just need it fire rated to be compliant, like Warnock Hersey or Factory Mutual, so some applications will require a UL listed or a UL listing. So if you need it, if your project requires UL listing, and look at your doors, if they require you, Underwriters Laboratory, to be the testing laboratory of record, you're going to want to specify UL. That's not unusual, actually. I've just not seen it on hinges. They might tell you, yeah, the hinges are rated, but the specifications require a UL label, meaning it's been tested and found compliant from Underwriters Laboratory. Anyway, that might be a bit of minutia, but if there's a way to have the rope around your neck, that would be a way. Let's wrap up this video on camera.
If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, you know, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So in conclusion, if you have any questions on the BB5200 from Cal Royal, feel free to reach out to us. I've been buying from Cal Royal for about 30 years. More than 30 years I've been aware of them, and realistically for 20, in a 25 in a reasonable, predictable, reliable, repeatable amount of time. I generally don't say anything even remotely negative, but their customer service for me has slipped over the last few years, so I've weaned off of ordering material from them. And here's why. Cal Royal does a great job. They have an ever-increasing catalog in terms of its thickness. 30 years ago, that catalog was that big. Today, it's that big. They've added an enormous amount of additional material. Enormous. The benefit of that is it's almost all-inclusive in terms of you need hinges, and you need closers, and you need locks and exit devices and electrified hardware, and you need gasketing. They've got it all. It's one PO to them. The fact that they're importers from Asia, they have either skids of the material or they're completely out for weeks, if not months. But the issue becomes, what are they? They're an importer of hardware. In the world of hardware importers, there's no shortage. I can buy this hinge from countless other people. So in my opinion, what I'm actually paying for, the reason that I actually choose one importer over another, because what's the reason for going with an imported hinge? Cost. Your customer doesn't want to pay money, any more money than necessary. Well, you're not going to sell them the equivalent by Hager would be a BB1168 4.5, 4.5. You know, that hinge is going to be an order of magnitude more well, that's 2 or 3 times the cost. And frankly, as a distributor, allows you to make more money. But if the customer service isn't there, then I can just go to the next importer. And I personally feel that Cal Royal has lost sight of what they actually do. What they actually do is provide customer service. That's what they actually do. They just happen to do so by selling, wholesaling builder's hardware. Anyway, overall a good crew over there. Any questions on the BB5200 and a 4.5, 4.5, 10B, or any other Cal Royal product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you. Thanks to our clients, Architectural Builder Supply is building an additional facility, and what follows is not only a look at the acreage that we're building the facility on, but also first the architectural renderings as they exist, or at least the architectural plans as they exist at this time. Thank you very much. Let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at the architecturals as they exist at this moment, or at least it wouldn't be proper to call these architecturals, but it would be proper to call them renderings in the sense of they're conceptual drawings, they're not renderings. So the entire space is going to look like this in terms of a site rendering. This will be a 22,000 square foot building, of which will have specific purpose areas. There'll be a workshop down here. This is a few thousand square feet that will be likely woodworking, metalworking, CNC, things of that nature. This will be an office area here, a private office area. This will be Architectural Builders Supply expanded storage area where we will be able to do fulfillment. The entire space in the center is going to be all of the volume, as I call it. Large components will be able to be stored and stocked there. Machinery that's too large to fit otherwise may be put out here. Specific facility rooms, and then some recreation over here. Let's take a look at that drone footage, and thank you very much for taking a look.